like my opens to be short, to the point. You get it. You don't shake your head. You know what's happening. It's called relative greatness. You know what it is. You just heard it right here on Sports Radio 670. Let's go. And you, I meant to get to that today because, Ed Sherman consults me on all matters.
Were you talking to Ed Sherman genius or Ed Sherman imbecile?
I was talking to Ed Sherman, reporter. He was not doing his column.
Oh, that's right. He's reporting. Okay.
Right. Ed Sherman, reporter, is a fine man.
And, of course, he called you to ask about a tumescent drug being the title sponsor of the Western Open, worried to say about the jokes that would be made about it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If they're looking for a little attention, we'll give them attention, said Terry Bors.
You know why? Because he thinks I'm the final word on radio comedy.
Carphone Pat, you're on relative greatness on the score. Regale us, please. Pat.
Oh, hey, guys. I'm sorry. I got some static for a minute. How you guys doing?
Good.
This is a story about my brother who, while he was a student at Illinois State University...
Well, what do you think the odds were that we'd have to dump the first call? 50-50?
Yeah, no, 5-2. I had a feeling that did we not explain it?
Greg in Lakeview says, my aunt is a retired art teacher. When she was teaching at CCNY, one of her students was a young Colin Powell. It was one of those art classes that all college students have to take, and it seems that while she was his teacher, she tried to convince him not to go in the Army, as my aunt thought it held no future for Colin Powell.
Oh.
And the Cajun Bagel says, when my wife and I were dating, knowing I was a big sports fan, she told me how she not only met but took a picture with Wilt Chamberlain. And while not a great basketball fan, she impressed me with her run-in with the basketball scoring legend. And it wasn't until recently, after years of living this lie, that my father-in-law revealed that it wasn't the stilt my wife met, but Wally Chambers. I ask you, is my marriage a sham? So she'd confused Wally Chambers with Wilt Chamberlain.
Oh, boy. But that's what we're doing. And again, it doesn't have to be sports.
Ryan downtown, you're on relative greatness on the score.
What's going on, guys?
I got a little problem.
Yeah, me too.
We do.
Well, this happened back in, I believe it was 98. My father is a restaurant owner in the south suburbs, and Jay Leno came to the Western Open to see Tiger Woods play that year. And Jay Leno happens to be a big rib eater, and asked his limo driver where a good rib joint was. So, needless to say, I'm at home watching TV, and my stepdad calls me up as he's crapping his pants that Jay Leno's in the restaurant sitting down eating ribs. So his claim to fame is that he got to sit down and have ribs with Jay Leno and his limo driver.
That's quite a claim. That's perfect. Sterling in Stickney, who says he's not affiliated with anyone else from Stickney, says in 1967 or 68, while attending Prospect High School, my dad was on the freshman baseball team, and Dave Kingman was a senior on the varsity squad. After practice one day in the locker room, they were horsing around and throwing equipment. There were a few rows of lockers, and the kids were throwing things from my dad's aisle. Dave Kingman was on the other side. A piece of equipment was thrown over to the other side and struck Kingman. The kids who were horsing around split, leaving my dad by himself and unaware of what happened. Kingman came around, calmly walked up to my dad without saying a word and socked him in the stomach, dropping him to the floor, knocked the wind out of him. While my dad gasped for air, another guy informed Kingman that my dad had nothing to do with what just happened. He hit the wrong guy. Kingman helped my dad up and apologized.
And then threw him in the lake.
Right. And then gave him a dead rat. Carphone Chuck.
That's what we're talking about,
You're
right
on
there.
the score. Hey, Chuck.
Hey, how you doing?
Well, I'd rather be high.
Well, it's snowy out here. My sister-in-law went to Hebrew school with Danny Shea.
Where?
Syracuse.
Oh, that's right. He was in Syracuse. That's a good one.
His father played for the Nationals.
Dolph.
Of the Chapeau.
That's a good one.
That's good.
Yeah, it's good. Penis Punch says, in Al Capone's heyday, he had a hideout just outside Birchwood, Wisconsin, about 30 miles south of Hayward. That's true. And believe it or not, Babyface Nelson actually had a place on Big Spider Lake.
So did Ed Gein.
Probably. Ed Gein didn't live like those guys. He didn't live the high life.
Well, he lived the life of, eating Riley. I don't know.
It says, my great uncle lived less than a mile away, and during the winter months, he'd bring firewood to Al's place as a neighborly gesture. On one occasion, when my great uncle stopped to drop off some firewood, married to his great aunt, by the way, Al was actually there. Al invited him in and had him stay for dinner. Not knowing the raging alcoholic that my great uncle was, Al offered him a drink. Several drinks, I'm sure numerous obscenities later, my uncle was requested to leave and not return. He didn't understand exactly who or what Capone was, and according to legend, left the hideout with an expletive-filled tirade that would have made Jim Mora blush. The next day, while telling the story to friends, they explained to him who Al Capone was, and after that point, he stayed away from his hideout. And this is the best part, he says, I'm pretty sure my cousin got boned by Rick Springfield, but that's unconfirmed. What? What?
Was he there too?
What?
Is he in the room?
Just pick one. Now I'm confused. Mike and Rockford, you're on the score.
God.
How you guys doing?
We're good.
All right. My granddad, while attending Alabama A&M, once dormed with Alex Haley. How about that?
Could you repeat that, please? He once
Roomed with Alex Haley?
He dormed with Alex Haley.
dined with Alex.
Dined with Alex Haley.
Dormed.
Dormed.
Dormed, yeah.
Okay. With Alex Haley. All right. Farmer Paul says, my wife's uncle played for the Chicago Cardinals with Pat Summerall. When my wife's grandmother picked up her son-in-law at the Chicago train station after an away game, she saw Pat Summerall get off the train and fall down the steps. He got up and dusted himself off like nothing had happened.
Looks like a wet one.
Wet, Peter. Just plain wet.
Gary in Evanston on relative greatness on
Hi,
the
Terry and
story.
Dan. Both Stillman and Coco LaBoy, Expos baseball. Anyway, when she lived in Green Bay in the 70s, my wife Mary and her family were good friends with the finest American actor today and his family, who lived about a mile away. This actor won an Emmy last year and will probably win a Golden Globe on Sunday and is a star of the best series on TV right now. I'm talking about Tony Shalhoub, the star of Monk. So even though my favorite NFL team, the Packers, did not make the Super Bowl this year, at least Green Bay can claim the distinction of being the place where Tony Shalhoub was born and raised. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. I love Tony Shalhoub.
Gary.
Gary's such a nut. Barry says Abe Gibberin made my brother cry. We were at Rensselaer for Bears training camp, and as morning practice was over and the team was walking back to the dorms, my 7-year-old brother asked head coach Abe Gibberin what time afternoon practice started. Abe screamed, 2 o'clock. It's going to be tough, and we're going to hit people, and you damn well better be there. My brother ran back to my dad, crying and sputtering, the fat man yelled at me. Relative greatness.
Just a little
Sponge Bath Bob in Orland Park, you're on the score.
Great show, guys. This goes back to March of 1976. My father-in-law owned a car dealership in a town called Glenwood Springs, Colorado, which is about 50 miles from Aspen. At that time, he was a very drinky individual, and his claim is that in March of 76, he was partying very heavily with Jack Nicholson. Drove Jack Nicholson to the private Aspen airport, and as Jack was getting on the plane, he said, "Damn it, I forgot my sunglasses." My father-in-law handed Jack Nicholson his sunglasses, and when he accepted the Academy Award that night for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, that's my father-in-law's sunglasses that he's wearing.
That's a great one.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
I like it a lot. True or not, that's
True
a
or
great
not,
one.
could be, could not, it might not be, it could be. But I like it.
Eric in Cherry Valley says, my relatives brush with greatness. Says, growing up in DeKalb, my brother mowed the lawn of Cindy Crawford's mother. He said he went up to pick up a check one day, and Cindy answered the door and said, "Oh, let me get my mother for you." My brother, with his cut-off jeans and dirty mesh John Deere cap, just stood there speechless and nodding. Not quite a Penthouse Forum story.
I can't imagine what it'd be like Cindy Crawford answering the door, huh? That's probably accurate. I believe that one. She there. Oh, yeah. She there.
There's a lot of
She there.
DeKalb
She there.
people that ran across the Crawford family. Actually,
Really ran across.
Jamal was out there occasionally, too.
More familiar with her brother Jamal, but she's done well for herself, I reckon. Is she married?
Cindy Crawford?
Yeah.
To Randy Gerber.
Okay. I'm just waiting for her to lose this creep.
Why?
For me.
For you?
Yeah, I'm not busy.
You have to re-embrace NIU, though. And NYU, actually. You should too. Theo, and
I do?
Lakeview,
Why do I have to do that?
Theo.
Hello.
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 My uncle went fishing with Ted Williams down in Florida. It was about almost 50 years ago. He showed me a letter he had from Ted.
Were they fishing for tarpon and bonefish, as Ted
I
liked
don't
to
know
do?
what they fished for, and I don't know how many times he went, but...
Was your uncle a guide or something, or just a guy who was hanging around?
Well, I think he was introduced to him by somebody or something.
Okay.
Because Ted was very, very serious about his fishing.
Oh, yeah, I know. My uncle had lived in New England, and then he married into the Glidden Paint Company, so I guess it's...
Wow, now see, now you got two right there.
Yeah.
You got the Glidden Paint Company and Frozen Ted Cranium. That's pretty good.
We'll continue with relative greatness in just a moment.
I married into the DuPont family.
Not the wacky guy riding around in his tank or whatever, that crazy murderer guy.
The wrestling guy.
Yeah, the wrestling guy.
That wrestling guy. No, I didn't. DuPont family. I had no brush with greatness.
If you married into the DuPont family and you're sitting here, we'd have...
I'm a moron.
We'd have issues.
I'm an imbecile.
Sports Radio 670, The Score.
We're closing out what has been a really, I don't know how to categorize this week, but anyway, we're doing a relative greatness. And and we've already, not only are we doing relative greatness and enjoying it, but for the love of God, I mean, how much more entertaining can you get than Ask Rusty and relative greatness in one day? Can America take all this? Can they digest this in one fell swoop?
And you ask, what is relative greatness?
I do wonder.
Well,
Still, even if
here's
they're
the-
listening to it for 40 minutes, I wonder what it is.
This is an example. Andy from Mokina says, when my dad was in high school, he got to play against Doc Rivers. He made a great showing because over the length of a game, Doc Rivers only managed 66 points against him. Well done.
And like Joe and Ty Streets.
How did that go for
Not
him?
well.
Really happened.
Not well. Well, this, Ty Street's pretty good.
Joe had to guard Ty Streets. Talk basketball now.
Basketball.
Yeah?
Trouble.
How many?
No, not a lot. I mean, he actually could identify him. Knew where he was.
Throw a cup at him occasionally or something.
Where he was.
Kick his leg out at him.
I know where you're at.
Got you marked, Mr. Streets.
I know where you're at. I know where you're at.
Brett in Naperville, you're on relative greatness on the score.
Hey, buddy.
Hi, buddy.
Sorry about that. All right, this one goes back a few years. In 1995, my cousin, Jeff Roth, who's a professional golfer, was playing in some small tournament down south somewhere. During the round, the guy in the group behind him continued hitting into him in the middle of his group and became a distraction. After the end of the round, my uncle Bob Roth walked up to one John Daly and asked him what he was doing or what he was thinking. After a few insults and allegations of diddling my aunt, my Uncle Bob decided to hop on his back and then receive several noogies afterwards.
It could have been worse for old Lunk. Because John Daly could have, as they say in the golfing business, and you don't have to trust me on this, you could look it up as they say, he could have clubbed him. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, famous.
Yeah. He could have beaten him to death with a blunt object, not unlike John Holmes or Priest Holmes.
Tony says, sometime in the late 60s, early 70s, my grandfather met Richard Nixon.
I like it.
My grandfather is a Parisian-trained chef and was working at the Blackstone Hotel. Nixon was there for a dinner fundraiser, and the story goes that Nixon was so impressed with the food, he requested that the chef, my grandfather, could come out so that Nixon could give him his compliments, and he even autographed his chef hat. We still have it.
Wow. You sweat on it for him a little.
Biker Andy in Oak Forest, you're on Sports Radio 670.
Gentlemen,
Andy!
as always, I enjoy the steaming pile of man goo that passes for a show every day.
Thank you.
It is. Yeah.
My relative greatness is my aunt owns some rental properties in downtown Chicago, condos. And many years ago, she rented to a young lady named Juanita.
Is this an uh-oh? Is this something we need to be careful
No,
with?
this is clean. This is a Juanita that ended up marrying Michael Jordan. So we have formed the theory that perhaps their first child may have been conceived in said apartment.
Okay.
And the mother and child reunion. Could we? You did not make your announcement.
Yes,
here,
I didn't
which you
make my
found,
announcement.
and please make it now.
A significant portion of emails that are coming in, I can't say for the calls, but we don't need any more Michael Jordan gave my girlfriend or my wife or my sister or my female companion his telephone number or his basketball information, because there's a lot of those.
Oh, you get Michael's basketball information.
Yes, there's a lot of those. So
it is National Pie Day.
Yes, it is. It's January 23rd.
You will get his basketball information. Yeah. So anyway, we can't really go there, but it's remarkable, isn't it?
Grumpy old man on the northwest side says, my father was an usher at Ebbets Field, and my mother was once struck by a foul ball off the bat of Pee Wee Reese.
Nice guy. Mickey Rooney? Pudwhack.
Liz in Mundelein, you're on the score.
My relative greatness is that my father was incarcerated at Marion with Pete Rose.
Well, that's not Liz. Is he still there?
Yeah, it's true. I'm here. Hold on 1 second. Ladies!
Ladies!
Okay, my lady friends were yelling.
Oh, my God.
Wait, that's quite a party you got going on there.
What's going on there, Liz? Are you incarcerated?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Hopefully never.
What's going on over there?
It's just the ladies in the afternoon.
Is it National Pie Day celebration?
Well, depending on how you interpret pie.
Well, then leave. If it is what we think it is, leave a Betacolin address.
Thank you for taking my call.
Well, thank you for making it, Liz. Have a wonderful weekend, and I hope to God Pop is out. Oh my God.
We asked for it.
Yeah, I know.
What was going on over there?
Boy, I
want to know.
Women make that kind of.
It's yacht. That was.
Oh my God! Unless it's a Les Michelle Wee celebration.
Oh, someone said it again. Who was it? About little girls picking up their golf clubs and how she's going to create.
Because what Tiger couldn't do, they give us that golf boom that everybody promised. Now
Sports Illustrated.
Yeah, she's going to give it to us
Sports
now.
Illustrated. You can hear the sound of the little girls all taking to the links because of Michelle Weeb finishing 80th.
You may see a lot of girls picking up clubs, but it has nothing to do with golf.
Mike says, my father was in a nearly empty hotel bar many years ago in Milwaukee on a sales trip. There's only one table in the distance that had several people with loud discussion and bar banter, and he was sitting alone when a familiar voice yelled out to the bartender, "Hey, bartender, a round for everyone. Get that lonely guy a drink over there." The lonely guy was my dad. The guy buying, of course, Harry Carey.
Paul McKeskey.
I think there's a lot of people that can tell that story, too. Harry, very generous. He'd buy everybody drinks.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very generous in that regard. I think everybody's had...
Hey.
Different...
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm confused. Well, it's Friday, it's late, it's snowing, and I'm, slightly verklempt. But you're right, I'm sorry. I don't want to mix my announcers. And neither does anybody else. Pat's not doing
Hodgkins, you're on the score. Hey, Pat.
Hi, how you doing, guys?
Good.
This story goes back to the 1930s, and it was my dad was about 7 years old, and it was the first All-Star game in Chicago. And my grandfather worked for the Tribune, so got free tickets for it. And his cousins came in from Boston. And after the game, they took his cousins back to Union Station. And while they were waiting on the platform, one of the conductors said, "Hey, if you go down a little bit further, some of the players from the All-Star game are waiting for their train." So they hustled down there, and who was standing there but Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig? And they got to meet him, and my dad just was amazed to meet his heroes. And Babe Ruth patted him on the head and stuck his hand out and said, "Put her there, kid." And the one thing that he remembers most is the size of Lou Gehrig's hand. He said it was just immense. And
you sure it was his hand?
Yeah, I hope so.
I'm sorry, I'm getting punchy. That's great. I'm sorry, that's good.
That's really good.
That's really good.
Champagne Wheezy says, my brother, when he was 6 years old, used to run up to Doug Buffone when he'd eat at our parents' restaurant in Park Ridge and rattle off the great plays he made during the last Bears game. According to my mom, Doug would turn to our parents and say, "How old is this kid and how does he remember that?" Right, what he didn't add was, "Because I certainly don't." And we will close out relative greatness with Mike in St. Charles on the score.
Hey, I'm honored. This is a fantastic segment, guys. My brother, who really likey drinky,
spent 4 years at Northern Illinois University. A lot of that time he spent marinating in one particular bar restaurant. After spending, I don't know, countless hours there, he got to know the owner fairly well. He regularly went on Sunday mornings for Bloody Marys to shake off the ills of the night before. One Saturday night, the owner tells him, you cannot come tomorrow. The bar and restaurant are closed tomorrow for a private party. But if you clean up real good and come over about 11, I'll have a surprise for you. So my brother cleans up, goes there at 11, and Cindy Crawford is having her first bridal shower, or maybe her only bridal shower, when she was married to Richard Gere, having her party there that day. The party goes on and on. The party's breaking up. My brother asked Cindy Crawford in the parking lot, would she mind if she stood for a photo with him? She obliged. They snapped a photo, and my brother, who was soused by this time, his hand dropped from her shoulder to her buttocks with a little pinch. He got a slap, and that's my brother's brush with fame.
Oh, he must stay off the dreaded buttocks.
Yes,
that's... Do not put your hand on the Crawford family's buttocks. That's terrific, kids. That's upset.
was really
That's
good.
Friday Fung.
That's
Ozzy.
Friday
Can I
Fung.
hear Ozzy again? That's what that is. Ozzy?
They're not listening.
Scott, stop listening to the show.
Scott's in his own little world
He is.
over
He
there.
stopped listening to the show. Can I hear Ozzy to close it off? Because that was Friday Fung. Can't do it.
Well, what are they doing over there?
Enjoying each other's nakedness.
We were actually just finishing up the conversation with the last caller who was still talking.
Friday Fung?
1 o'clock
Friday Fung.
on Fridays.
Fung.
A lot of fun. It couldn't be more fun. Scott's
Oh,
looking
here's you.
for it.
Fun is winning. Winning is fun. I believe have fun first, then you win. Then you have more fun in the clubhouse.
Sports Radio 670 The Score.